But we have to learn how to be students. We have to learn, especially when it comes to spiritual things. We have to learn how to be a good student. So there's some advices on this in the long run that aren't in the reading that you have, the short long run. So we'll start with that. How to be a good student. Okay. The first thing, one of the first things that they say is like you should avoid as a student what they call the 3 problems of the pot. And as pot like meant some kind of water vessel. So I always think of it as a Starbucks cup. The 3 problems of the Starbucks cup. Okay. The first problem is that you got to turn it over. You got to turn it from the downside to the upside, which means you got to open your ears. Okay. You got to get ready for the latte. Yeah, right? You can't pour a latte into a cup that's all down like this, okay? You gotta get ready for the spiritual latte. Or do you like cappuccino? Whatever. So you gotta turn it over. So that means you have to open. Here's what that means. It means that you realize that you don't know everything already. There are many students some students that show up in classes of any sort, no matter what you're teaching, who somehow think they already know what you're teaching. The first thing they do is they start to correct you, or they start to challenge you, they start to like why did you even come? Why don't you go teach your own class? Go to Gloucester and teach your own class. I got my tent here. You go and find your tent. Go get your own tent. They just know, they think they're know-it-alls, There's a technical term for this. They're ineducable. You can't teach them anything. Because their cup hasn't been turned over. They think they don't need to know anything. They don't need any information from you. Thank you. So, fine. Go home. Watch the Democratic convention. Turn it on. Then the next thing is, make sure the cup's clean. Make sure you didn't turn over a Starbucks cup that somebody else used already. You see, what it means is the metaphor here is make sure your motivation's pure. So why are you coming here? You see, why are you coming here? Are you just collecting facts? Are you collecting some data? I've had students like this. When I was teaching in LA, I had a student who showed up in my class who was there on an anthropology. It turned out he was undercover for a while. Turned out he was an anthropologist. He's coming doing field work. What are those American Buddhists doing? And he later became one of my best students. He stayed on. Joke was on. He didn't like it. But make sure you're motivated. So what's the motivation? Why are you here? Why are you listening to this kind of thing? Is it just to have more facts? Is it to impress people at your next cocktail party about what you know about Buddhism or something like that? I mean, not that that's going to impress people that much, probably. What's the motivation? Here's what your motivation should be. There's 2 proper motivations for taking teachings like this. 2. One is I want to be happy myself. That's a proper motivation. Totally proper motivation. And the reason that's a proper motivation is because of the second one. Because I really want to help somebody else be happy. And I can't help somebody else be happy if I haven't learned how to be happy first. And that's fundamental, okay? Got to get that through your head. You can't help anybody else as an unhappy, depressed, anxious, crankscious. I learned this word in Canada. Where's the Canadian lady? Yeah. I used to teach in Vancouver. I still do quite a bit. And I guess it's a slang word in at least maybe one household in Vancouver. Crankscious. Cranky and anxious at the same time. Crankscious. You're not going to be able to help anybody like that. You see? Unless you fix yourself, don't come to me and want to do brain surgery on me, you see. It's like somebody who hasn't gone to medical school saying oh yeah, I'll do brain, I got a saw in the garage, we'll work on your head. What do you know about being happy? If you're not happy yourself, what do you know about how to be happy? Why are you teaching me how to be happy? If you're not happy, you see. We're going to talk pretty quickly actually about the criteria that you should look for in a teacher. And I think, this is just me, okay? It's not in the text or anything, so it's just my opinion. But I think one of the very, very important criteria is, are they happy? A spiritual teacher should be happy. A yoga teacher, a spiritual teacher, they should be a happy person. Because that's supposed to be the goal. That's supposed to be the product of the spiritual life. So if they're I'm kind of teach you some yoga. Long rim. You know, like, well, maybe you should find a different teacher, you know? Find somebody who's getting like some of the realizations, you see, some of the actualizations of the practice in their own lives and feeling happier. So that's the second one, you know, to make sure your motivation is pure. And I really emphasize, those are the two motivations. Two proper motivations. I need to learn how to stop my own suffering so that I can help other people stop their own suffering too. That's the best thing that you can do for another person, is to figure out how to stop your suffering so you can help them. So don't think it's selfish or something like that, to, you know, spending nights in the tent here, you know, fighting mosquitoes, you know, learning how to be happy. It's one of the best things you could do for another person. It's, you know, maybe a lot better than serving at a soup kitchen, for example. I'm not saying don't serve at a soup kitchen, but I'm saying if you really want to help people, get yourself fixed quick so that you can fix them. You give somebody a cup of soup, they're going to be hungry the next day. You give somebody the tools to be happy, to permanently end their mental afflictions. What have you given them then? You see, the highest gift. So then the third thing about the cup is you make sure there's no hole in the bottom. Make sure there's no hole, not leaky, right? Which means what? Which means this ain't infotainment, okay? What you're coming here for is not some other TV show. It's not some movie. It's not some low-rent movie. It's not like some fifth-rate, you know, entertainment thing. See, this is different. This is information that could totally change your life. This is information that could stop your suffering. And you should think of it that way, and not just have it go in one ear and out the other. So that's the idea, right? The leaky cup. Not just in one ear and out the other. And we have to really fight this tendency nowadays. I was telling you afternoon class, because you know, we're bombarded with information now. In our culture, in this culture and time, we're completely bombarded with information. And we have trained our minds to not absorb it. We've trained our minds to kind of, you know, just let it go in and out. To not remember what happened last week in the news, kind of, you know. People can't recall what happened like weeks ago in the news. It's just goes by so quickly. It's so much. It's so much that we can't retain it all. And spiritual information is not like that. Spiritual information is not the same. Is not of the same order as you know, as what you're seeing on the internet or on TV or in the radio. Okay. So you gotta kind of like make sure there's not a hole in the bucket, dear Liza, dear Liza.